make that my intro. A man, not a man who was born ready over
Welcome.
50 years ago.
Welcome everybody to a very special Thursday night edition of Hot Program. I am your host with the most from the East Coast, and as always, folks, I come to you live from airplane mode. And now a man who read the Bible multiple times and thinks either Jesus didn't exist or was an excellent con man, a man who needs no introduction.
Hi, everyone.
I feel a Patreon exclusive episode of why Jesus was a con man and Paul was too.
Oh, we could do that. I have to present a retraction to something I said weeks ago. I thought I was very interested in reading in the New Testament that, and also reading Plato, that Jesus may have, when he said, "In my Father's house are many mansions," I think he might have been referring to the soul, the man, like the human mansion of the soul. I think I know for sure I'm wrong now, so I'm going to retract that. In the book of Enoch, Enoch sees mansions that are made for the elect. And I've started my little research project with Revelation and John, trying to illustrate why I think they're first. And maybe I shouldn't be so surprised, but I'm certainly impressed at just how much was drawn from the book of Enoch, a book where Enoch sees the storehouses of the hoarfrost, like that's kept in a bin somewhere, like I don't know, nowadays, like dog toys at the bargain bin at Walmart or something like that. They have hoarfrost up there in heaven. So just hanging out, waiting to be dumped by the angels, I suppose. But yeah, I'm making the cross references, so you'll be able to go chapter and verse, and I want to make something people can look at, and maybe ultimately you can walk the faithful through it and have them answer your questions, or not be able to answer your questions.
So now you're thinking. So you're thinking. So how are you updating the hypothesis? Does John in Revelation still come before the rest of the Gospels?
Yes, I think Revelation comes before John, and then I think John is the first gospel still, and then Mark, Matthew, Luke.
But you think whoever this is borrowing heavily from Enoch?
Borrowing heavily from Enoch, Daniel, Zechariah, and Isaiah, and what's that other one? I didn't say Ezekiel. Mm-hmm.
Have you heard of Margaret Barker?
I have indeed.
Because I think she's big into Enoch scholarship.
Well, now I know one more person to direct questions to if I have them. So who knows if she'll answer?
I have something she wrote. I don't know what it is, but yeah, she actually.
Is it the Great Angel?
No. I don't know what it is. I have to take a look. All right, so today we've got a video to review, all about, does God know who his chosen people are? And if you don't mind, I'll share a screen and we'll go ahead and get into it. I just want to say that I find this to be one of the greatest failings of the Abrahamic religions. The fact that nobody caught this. There's certain failures of myself in your own moral development that I look back on and I go, man, that was a really big problem with Christianity that I am kind of ashamed that I overlooked. One is obviously the bigotry against various groups, But perhaps, you know, the central bigotry of all of it is this whole notion of a chosen race of people, a chosen group of people. And I think it's one of the...
We have a powerful cumulative case.
It's one of the parts of the identity of most religious people that is the most central to them, but they don't really want to talk about it. And I think the issue is that it provides such a positive, you know, staple of the identity, but they don't think through what it says about people outside of your group. Yeah. Well, did you want to lead in anything else in lead in?
No, go ahead and roll that beautiful bean footage.
All right.
Hello, this is Deborah.
Oh
with
wait,
Black
have I
Education
seen
TV,
this
and I'm gonna be-
before?
Have you? Maybe you have. I haven't. I haven't.
Okay. So, dear audience, you're in for a treat. This woman that you see here in the ghost image, her and her husband, along with millions of other people, are of the mind that the original Hebrews of the Bible were black people. So, as a result of that, you're going to hear, and I don't know if it's just in this clip, but if you look into it, this is something I've said before. Don't make up your mind too fast. This subject is extensive and fascinating. I think a lot of people are misunderstanding some things they're reading.
Wait, are these black Hebrew Israelites?
That woman that you saw there is a black Hebrew Israelite, but she's not like you have groups that are militant.
Sure.
You know, some groups are militant. Others are just, I'm going to say it, like super duper wholesome and sincere. Now, biblically speaking, those people, actually, biblically speaking, both groups are to be grafted into the vine. They are. That's what the Bible says in the Old Testament. If they want to follow the laws, you let them in.
Sure. I think the problem is that at least some people within that movement deny the true Hebrew status of the Jewish people. So they get critiqued for what, you know, what's perceived as racism of their doctrine. So I mean, that I get the problem there.
It is amazing. It is amazing, because think of it. Let's hypothetically, let's say the black Hebrew Israelites are correct. That as we read through the Bible, we're reading black history. Okay. Let's say they're correct. At some point in time, this message went to Russia, Poland, Ukraine, places like that. You're probably going to hear the 13th tribe, the story about the 13th tribe at some point. If you research this topic, it's fascinating. And you can waste weeks upon months upon years studying it and still not have a conclusion. But you're gonna hear about these things that maybe those European people, right, were long ago converted, and then their descendants are the people we widely know as Jews today. There are Limba Jews. There are black in South Africa. There are black Jews in Yemen. There are black Jews throughout different places in Africa. Shockingly, because I read a history book once upon a time, I can look at all this and laugh at those people for being upset with each other about, like, you're trying to take my heritage away. And I'm thinking, I don't think any of you fully understand what you're dealing with. So it's funny to me.
Sure.
I want them all to be happy. I want them all to love each other and be good to each other. But with centuries in Spain, with the Moors ruling Spain for centuries, a lot of the Moorish people were black. There were forced conversions from Judaism to I think it was Catholicism, but it's the Christian religion by people. You were forced, so you had to give up your way of life and become essentially a Christian on pain of death or exile. So you have people that straight up left. They're like, we're out of here. You had people that were enslaved and deported to different parts of the world, a lot of them to Africa, Cape Verde, stuff like that. And I don't know how many of our audience are familiar with friends or family members, maybe, or even in your own home, people of mixed ethnicities. And I don't mean like, I have an uncle. I have a great grandfather who had blonde hair and blue eyes. That literally is my history, and curly hair. This is where I'm told my curly hair comes from. So, literally, that's what he looked like. But they told me he was black. I'm like, okay, well, all right. But somewhere in his lineage, somebody wasn't. He wasn't albino. Somebody wasn't. So maybe his father or mother or whatever. And that could have happened on both sides, because slave masters, that's old enough for him to have been born a slave. And slave masters routinely would rape their slaves. Right. So that is an out-and-out possibility. In my lineage, there's something going on that I don't really know much about. I found out this week he had blonde hair and blue eyes, talking to my aunt. Oh. So you have to understand that through centuries of travel, trade, war, rape, things like that, so many of these people are hodgepodges. They're mixes. You can find somebody that's pure European descendant, but that just means those genes, as you well know, a pocket liker, are recycled and prominent in a particular area.
That happens in every population, right? But I think it's a problem if people are going to tell the vast majority of Ashkenazi Jews and their, and that type of people that they're not who they claim they are. I mean, this isn't my battle, because again,
it's fascinating.
I don't want anybody even wants this is a one-legged foot race to the top of a mountain I want no parts of. But yeah, I mean that's what they that's what the rap there is.
Okay, so wait. So Ashkenazim, the Ashkenazi Jews, are typically associated with Germany, and then you'll hear the term Sephardic Jews. That's typically Spain. I would be willing to bet if you started DNA testing Sephardic Jews, you're going to find out a lot of them have black ancestry, because the Moors ruled Spain for, hundreds of years.
But that's different than like where the heritage emerges from and which people and like which culture, right? Because we wouldn't know, right? Like, because just because I have European ancestry doesn't mean that my culture comes from Europe, right? Like
precisely. Look, I've met people who were born in Jamaica that don't look like the average Jamaican. With their green eyes and their blonde hair, they don't look like the average Jamaican.
Sure,
but that's where they're from.
Right.
Their family moved there and they were born there.
Right. But the accusation, right, is that you're taking somebody's history and then claiming they're not the true people. Like, that's different than we all have mixed ancestry, right? Because that's a problem, right? It's like if you take rock and roll music and then say, oh no, black people didn't create that. No, this we made this ours. That's what they're accused of. I'm not saying they're guilty. I wouldn't know, but I'm just saying there's a distinction between saying, yeah, we've all got mixed ancestry and we've all interbred and all that stuff, versus saying you're gonna read that Bible and say, oh yeah, all those people no, y'all are not really the Jewish people. We're actually the Jewish people. And I'm just saying that just so people understand why European Jews are upset with these people. It's
okay,
right. It's a claim that they're excluding.
I gotta continue.
Go ahead.
I know you want to get to the clip again.
No, you're good.
This has been one of my in my life. This has been one of the most entertaining topics I've ever studied, because it should not be adversarial. It's the search for truth. The search for truth should not be adversarial, but this search for truth is. And it's a shame that it is, from my perspective. So let's just say, again, the Hebrew Israelites are 100% right. By biblical standards, those European descendant Jews, the descendants of converts, if that is the case, are their brothers and sisters and should not be seen in any different way. They're not to be, berated for that. And the opposite is also true. If these new Hebrew Israelites are really the ones that are, those weren't black people in the Bible. But let's say that there weren't, there's a guy here and there. But by and large, the ancient Hebrews weren't black. If that is the case, then a person who is a modern Jewish person descended from, that came from Ukraine or Germany or Spain or Russia or wherever, a person of that nature also can't look at one of these new converts who's thoroughly embracing the Hebrew religion and shun them or badmouth them. And if you research this on the internet, and if you just use YouTube, you're going to find rabbis, Jewish rabbis with white skin, who are embracing this. And it is beautiful to see. They are celebrating this. And to me, that's beautiful to see.
I'm not with you on any of that. You out there on yourself. You out there in Good Cop on Good Cop Island. I don't think anybody welcome because none of this is true. So it's a bunch of let's get along. Oh well, welcome. The intent's not true. So the divisiveness to me is a bunch of nonsense. Let's all get along is a bunch of nonsense. And it's it's just but that's the struggle.
I'll tell you this, as I began my researching into this, and I got like a couple of books and stuff like that on it, and not just YouTube videos. I found it kind of one of those things where I sort of didn't want it to be true.
Hey man,
you didn't want what to be true?
I like the hey man. Oh, there it goes. Okay. I would be embarrassed if those Hebrews of the Bible were my ancestors. I'm thinking some of the worst thinking, the most backward thinking in human history came from those people.
I don't think they were. I honestly think I think black Hebrew Israelites are just wrong. Like I really do. And I do think their view's problematic. And I don't think it's just, and again I don't have a horse in this race, but as I understand it, there's a problem, and you're right about the biblical message, but one, we know that's not true, right? We know none of these actual religious sects allow other. That's a problem with religion. We could do a whole episode of that, right? But every religion has this sort of because a lot of religions do kind of have that code, right? If somebody follows the rules, if they follow the ways, they're good to go with us because we just want people to value and to live the same way we live. As soon as another group actually does that and literally does it and lives and takes their rules and their code and their holidays and their tradition, man, it's about to be a war started tomorrow. Because which is weird, but
we can look at Christianity. We don't have to cast our eyes any further than Christianity to see those divisions developed.
Right. There's the First and Second Baptist Church.
Yes, and we've heard that expression. We've heard a version of the expression: the most segregated place to be on a Sunday morning is in a church.
Absolutely.
You do if you go to a church that has Asians, Filipinos are Asians, black people, white people there, and Latinos there. If you go to a church like that, it's a find. It's gold. That is so rare, and I don't mean just like one or two or just one family, but where it seems like this was a place where groups of various skin tones and ethnic backgrounds.
But you know what seems to happen now when they get too diverse? You know what happens now when they get too diverse? They start splitting the services. You get a church that has too many Latino and Spanish speaking people. They just go, oh, now we have a second Spanish speaking service.
Well, when I was
which is not necessarily a bad thing.
Here in Los Angeles, I've seen, and I used to want to go to like a Filipino service that was in, I don't know how to pronounce her name, Tagalog. I wanted to go to hear what it was like.
Yeah.
I was just in Massachusetts for a long time, and sure enough, when I was at the Museum of Russian Icons, link to be shared with you, Pocket Locker, so you can use the video. I was near a church that had services in Portuguese, because there's a lot of Brazilians that migrate to Massachusetts because there are plenty of jobs there. So it's not a bad thing for these churches to be accommodating, but you're right. If you want there to be a dividing line, there's going to be one. The moment you set that up, there's probably people who will never go to the English service again. They just won't. I feel at home. Sorry, series. Sorry about that. They want to be around their people. They're comfortable around their people. They like hearing the message in their language, and so to speak. So it's well, I said it. It's comfortable for them, and that's what they want. That's where they go to church and believe in God anyway. Comfort. God, the God of the Bible, is like, for most people, crossing their legs. Oh, I'm more comfortable now. You know, you can quote me on that. The Hebrew God is like, loving him is like crossing your legs.
All right, you ready for this?
I hope so.
All right, let's see.
Discussing the chosen people. As many of you already know, there are a lot of different groups of people that are calling themselves the chosen people. You have the so-called Christians who believe that they are a replacement for the bloodline chosen people. You have those in the land of Israel today who believe that they are the chosen people. You have people that are calling themselves Hebrew Israelites who call themselves or believe themselves to be the chosen people. And you have some that believe the chosen people are just a group of people, anyone who serves whom they call God, they believe to be the chosen people. Now, according to Scripture, there are people alive on this earth today that have a lineage or a bloodline that links back to the chosen people. And although a lot of people try to play dumb like they don't know who they are, the whole world knows who the chosen people are. But a lie has been passed on for so long, for centuries, that you have some who just want to play dumb and stay dumb. Okay? Now, here is my concern about those who believe that they are the chosen people. Especially those who, I'm going to take the so-called Hebrew Israelites out of the equation for a moment, okay? Because most of the Hebrew Israelites, for a long time, for a very long time, for centuries even, especially those who went into slavery. I'm just going to stick with those who went into slavery, okay? Although we know in Africa there are so-called Israelites who never left their culture, but for a short period of time. But those who went into slavery were forced into other religions, whether it was Islam or Christianity. And many of us were okay with that. We were okay with what had been given to us. The white Jesus with the blue eyes, many of us settled for that. All of the doctrines that have been beat into us, we settled for that. So for that reason, I'm going to take them out of the equation, right? Now I'm going to deal with all the other groups of people that I named who considered themselves to be the chosen people. You're probably wondering, where am I going with this? Well, I'm going to arrive there very quickly for you. All of you who believe that you are the so-called chosen people, you must not trust, love, or have any amount of respect for the one that you call God who chose you. Because if you did, you wouldn't even have to do some of the things that you do as it relates to being the so-called chosen people that you think you are. And I'm going to get into some of the things that you do.
All of this makes my skin crawl. It's got those soft nodes of anti-Semitism. Only, wait, we are the true Israelites, so you can't say this is anti-Semitic. But it's just very interesting. And to me, this gets at what I think a lot of the problem is, and it shows you the fact that religion just doesn't help us get along. When part of the actual context that I try to consider biblical religions in light of is the people who wrote them. I don't believe there's a God at all. I don't believe so. So all of these texts to me, they were written by people. And when people try to come to me and basically be like, oh no, the Bible, the true message of the Bible is love and equality, and there's definitely no hatred or bigotry in it. I'm like, no. Take yourself back to the people that wrote it. Do you really think those people were not bigoted? We're not sexist. We're not homophobic. We're not racist. Of course they were. Of course they were.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all baked into the book. Where is this going? So if you go back to that time, there's no way my one black friend and I could have been like, oh yeah, we're down with the circumcision and we're gonna observe the 613 laws. Please let us in the temple. And they were gonna be like, oh yeah, sure, right this way. And Negroes like, like it just wasn't gonna happen, right? Because it didn't matter. Like whoever saw themselves as the chosen people, you know, if like all the other hierarchies in the world, they were the fair-skinned ones, and they saw other classes of people as slaves or beneath them or as an inferior race, they were not going to be like, oh, did you cut the tip? You follow the rules, you're good to go. So then
I'm gonna hurt your feelings, Pocket Locker.
Go ahead.
Keep going. I'm gonna hurt your feelings.
I was just saying. So there's this history of excluding people, which is why people like I think the Black Hebrew Israelites feel like this sense of racism within their own religion, right? People deny us our role in the, and then at the same time, the very same cultural biases that would exclude them, they're now turning around on those people and being like, well, no, y'all got it wrong. This is actually our culture. This is actually, we're the true original chosen people. And it's like, well, of course they're not going to accept that. So it should all be about who's observing the laws and who's following the doctrine, which none of them should be doing because nobody should want to be the chosen people in the first place. That's the part of this that makes my skin crawl, is that it's okay. the you know, we're in the 2023 and people are still talking about who's chosen and who's not. But yeah, go ahead.
All right. So I'm gonna try to do it right now. When I was at the Museum of Russian Icons, I went there for one specific reason. When you look at a lot of those icons, and again, this is focusing on Russia. I saw there was something in there that was Georgian, and the Georgian one was, so Georgia used to be part of Russia. And by the way, you'll rarely see better hospitality than in Georgia, the Republic of Georgia. What used to be the Republic of Georgia. A lot of those icons that you see of Jesus, he is a black person. Same with Mary. She is a black person.
Oh yeah, I know. They got my grandmother, the Christmas idols. I can't stand that
so
stuff.
There's some debate as to why. One mode of thought is that they're black because they're mythological. Now, if you look at ancient urns from Greece and Mycenae and places like that, you will see gods painted in black, and they'll be next to a person who's like a Caucasian person. It's probably wrong to call them Caucasian. I'll say European because Georgia is in the Caucasus, or the Caucasus are in Georgia. So it is one of those things where, again, I'll say, don't be so quick to make up your mind on this topic. It is fascinating and so intricate and complicated. For me, when I tell you they all should just get along and accept each other, I'm opting for the easy way for those people. So
no, it is the easy way. I'm just saying there's no way if you go back that I don't think there's real harmony in that region historically. I don't think there's harmony in the faith historically. So regardless of who the original people are, I don't know. It's like claiming again. I know people don't understand the depth of how much I really hate the Abrahamic God, but this is literally like a competition to claim who are the proper descendants of the original founders of the Ku Klux Klan. I think the Ku Klux Klan is like a mildly pessimistic, annoying organization compared to the vast majority of Abrahamic faiths. Like I have literally no respect for these faiths. So this is not a contest. Anybody should really be in it to win it, in my estimation. Just putting it out there. But what I'm saying is the religion has never been able to bring people together, and this is just evidence of that. Because no matter how far back you go, them people was not getting along, and now today. They're trying to act like, oh well, you know, it's an ethnic. Both sides to me are arguing something that amounts to an ethnic cleansing. Both sides are saying we're the true people of God. Your people, who happen to be a different ethnicity than us, keep claiming to be the real descendants, but we're the real descendants. So again, I don't know who's right, but no one should want to be right, and neither side is arguing for this in a way that is actually arguing for anything like ethnic harmony. They are both taking a divisive line of reasoning. Yeah, you. The non-Jew atheist is the only person suggesting that these two sides should somehow come to the table and get along, and that's the problem. That's the problem.
I'm very consistent.
They
I'm very
can't,
consistent.
yeah, they can't. They're the only ones that can't seem to read the part in the scripture about, you know, everybody that follows the rules is one of mine. So it's really crazy.
Let me read you something. So where does this chosen people stuff come from? Deuteronomy, or the book of Deuteronomy, as I sometimes call it, chapter 7, verse 7. I'll read a few of them. The Lord did not set his love upon you, nor choose you, because ye were more in number than any people, for ye were the fewest of all people, but because the Lord loved you, and because he would keep the oath which he had sworn unto your fathers, hath the Lord brought you out with a mighty hand, and redeemed you out of the house of bondmen, from the land of the Pharaoh, king of Egypt. Now, of course, we have no archaeological evidence. We can't prove that the Jews and Hebrews were slaves in Egypt. We can't prove that. Know therefore, this is verse 9, know therefore that the Lord thy God, he is the faithful God, which keepeth covenant and mercy with them that love him, and keep his commandments to 1,000 generations, and repayeth them that hate him to their face. It's coming. To destroy them. That's you too, Jay. He's going to be after you. He will not be slack to him that hated him. He will repay him to his face. Thou shalt therefore keep the commandments and the statutes and the judgments which I commanded thee this day to do them. Let's see if this is, there's something specific I'm looking for, and I don't think it's here. So let me tell you what I'm looking for. There's several times in the Bible, it says, if you, Israel, if you hold to this, what God is saying, I'll do this. So it's tit for tat, right? But if you don't, I'm going to give all this to other nations. It says that. Yeah. Now, it says that in the Old Testament, not just the New. So let's see if I got that queued up here. Matthew. Yeah. So Matthew 21:42-44. Jesus said to them, have you never read in the scriptures, the stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone? This is from the Lord, and it is marvelous in our eyes. Therefore, I tell you, the kingdom of God will be taken away from you and given to a people who will produce its fruit. He who falls on this stone will be broken into pieces, but he on whom it falls will be crushed. Jesus he's Samuel L. Jesus.
Yeah, I want to circle back to the quid pro quo, because
sure,
Asherah's Orchard put this terrible Jewish apologetic in the chat. And I hear this all the time. This is the Rabbi Tobias Singer argument. As a Jew, quote unquote, chosen person, I personally despise the idea of one group being chosen above another. The Jewish perspective is God chose the Jews to follow Yahweh's commandments, but it doesn't mean that Jews are somehow better than other people for keeping the commandments. It's literally the idea of chosen for a specific obligation. The obligation is seen as an honor, but it's also a difficult challenge. All right, let me just be clear about this. This is bullshit. And it's literally the Jewish equivalent of there's no hate quite like Christian love, to where there's a cowardice built into this apologetic. You know what you mean is we're the chosen people, deserving of God's reward. Scripture after scripture says, if my people would keep my commands, I would do this. If my people would do this,
That's
I
right.
would do that. If my people honor me in this way, I'll give them but if they don't, I'll give it to somebody else. Nobody keeps commandments without reward for keeping the extra command. Nobody would be worshiping a God who just gave them extra rules, but no benefit for following the extra rules. My job cannot come up to me and be like, hey, Jason, we really want to give you a promotion, but wait. We're not going to really give you a nicer office. We're not going to increase your salary. We're not going to give you any extra benefits. But in addition to being the instructor, we'd like you to be the teaching assistant, the lab assistant, the department head, and the associate dean. You good with that?
Amen.
Like, exactly. No, never, not a single day in my life would anybody ever accept this. So please stop trying to give in to atheists. Like, go say that to Christians, go say it to other Jews, but to tell atheists, oh, trust us, we don't get any special privileges being the chosen people. We just have a bunch of extra rules to follow. I'm not buying it. Just not buying it at all.
We atheists tend to think there's some BS there.
to say the least.
There's some BS.
All right, let's roll a little bit of tape here.
Okay.
You must believe that your God is so stupid that he needs you to speak up for him. And now let me tell you where I'm going with this.
Can you pause it?
Some of you all.
Can you pause it? Oh, wait, let me, Uncle Bobby. Stop the tape.
I picked the short one.
Stop the tape. She said you must think I'm paraphrasing, your God is so stupid that you have to speak for him. He had prophets. He had Moses. He had Zechariah, Zephaniah, Isaiah, Daniel, all speaking for him. I don't know. I mean, does she not acknowledge it? I guess it's picking what you want other people to notice about all of the arguments. So she very well could have said, yeah, sometimes God does have some human beings speak on his behalf. So anyway,
it's a weird one for me, and I don't know if they're ever going to acknowledge the problem with the whole concept. It's really weird. Go ahead, Spider.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello again, Spider. Good to hear you.
Hi, good to see you again. I just wanted to say something about what you said earlier, Jay, that just so you know that in Israel, all the rabbis and when they talking, there is a lot of we are better, we are the chosen, and we are better than the others. Like that is not, we just need to follow the commandments. It's actually he chose us because we are better, and because he chose us, the rest of all the Gentiles are kind of, they all work for us.
I've heard that attitude, Spider. And I've met people. And thankfully, it's only been a few people, but I have met people who have had that attitude, and it shocks me.
Yeah, and that is actually built into the system. I just wanted to.
I appreciate that. Yeah, what I think too is, and this is taking the comment charitably, is there's a lot of sugarcoating that goes on in any faith, right? And sometimes I hope that the people who practice the faith take the pushback and then go, wait, let me think about that, because I think it's inherent in the attitude, but I think what happens is if you question it or you bring it up, then you're given this sort of apologetic. Oh no, it's just about the extra rules, the obligations, and then when you hear it outside of your community, you go to that line, and the rest of your community go, wait, no, wait, pump the brakes on that, and it's no different than when I was a Christian, and there were clearly some problematic passages about the queer community, and I would say, oh no, I hate the sin, not the sinner. I pray for them. I think God wants to lead them to. I was sort of dancing around it because I thought those were genuine ways to address the issue, but the issue is the issue, right? The issue is if there we wouldn't need to have that conversation or have that apologetic if you didn't have this problematic concept of the chosen people to begin with. Like that's to me. So yeah, maybe it does come with some extra rules and obligations, but yeah, I appreciate that, Spider. And I think that's what most of us see. We know that at the core of this message, like I said, the whole faith's about being special and being the chosen people. So I don't even
Christianity.
I don't think you'd be doing it if it wasn't for the payoff of being in the special class.
Now, Spider, are you still there?
Yeah, he just went in front of the stage.
Hold on, I'm getting a ring on my doorbell.
Yeah,
Spider, if you could speak to, I'll be right back.
Okay.
I'm just wondering about Ethiopian Jews.
Right, go ahead. James, is James here?
One moment.
James, can you come up for a second? Oh, I should mute him. That's not the right thing. There we go. James, Spider, I don't know if James, can you hear me? Can you come up to the stage? He's in a chair. Oh yeah, James, you're in a table. Come up to the stage. There you go. We're getting it down. Boom. James, what's up?
Not much. So yeah, I mean, I have some shit to say about that. It ain't just about, hey, because your argument is valid about how nobody's going to sign up for extra responsibilities with no extra pay. That's not going to happen.
Right.
But also, no one's going to sign up just for extra responsibilities where when you don't meet those responsibilities, you get plagues and you get mass murder and you get caught on fire and burned to death and all that shit. No one's going to sign up for that shit just so they can feel a little extra special while they're doing all the extra work and getting damned every time they screw up even a little bit. In fact, they get damned even if the village idiot screws up. It ain't just if all of them screw up. So
absolutely, that was crazy. That's another very interesting thing. Like we talk about vicarious redemption, but there's a lot of vicarious responsibility in the Bible, right? You're responsible because somebody else in your village, there's too many other people are cheating on their spouses and shit like this.
Right.
So there's a plague upon the crops of everyone because of the sins you didn't even commit. And which is weird too, because I hear Christians always talking about libertarian free will. God can't do this or that because he'd take away our free will. But the whole story of the Bible is God being coercive as shit.
Right.
Right? I mean, everything he does is at the end of force and threats and plagues and disease and cast into slavery and all of this nonsense. And then they're like, oh no, but he can't actually tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, I'm real. Let me get rid of that headache for you just so you know that I exist. Because that would be coercive.
Right. Yeah, they don't understand how words work. They don't understand how language works. They don't understand how ethics works. They don't understand how logic works or how human social systems works. They don't understand the basics of any goddamn motherfucking thing. Right. And yet they're going to try to tell us that they're going to school us about the whole meaning of life and how we should be doing it.
Yeah, it's an issue. I wanted to quickly ask you before, because you were on Derek's stream with me earlier, and I really liked the guy talking, but I felt like he shot himself in the foot on philosophy, because
he did.
He was basically like, so philosophy should start with the clear, and it should help bring clarity to the issues. And then he went there, and every deist or theist issue that came up, he literally resoundingly argued against it in incredibly clear fashion. And then when it was like, all right, so do you think the evidence favors, atheism, theism, one side, the other? It's like, well, yeah, I don't really know. It's hard to say. There's so many arguments on one hand, but there's so many on the other hand. I don't think you could really say whether it leans one way or the other. I'm like, well, then you just undermine the entire argument about philosophy is supposed to bring some clarity, because it's about it's about 300 non-PhDs in the audience who can look at the evidence clear as day and make a decision about which way it leans.
Right. He is contradicting himself constantly, and it was a little bit frustrating to listen to it, because he's like talking about how it brings clarity, but then he turns around to admit that all it does is bring the mud. All it does is bring the mud.
Right.
It takes what's clear and it muddies the fuck out of it to where he feels like he's unqualified to even have an opinion about anything.
Right.
And I'm like, what good has it done you? Clarified shit. And if you're going to sit there and tell us it's not supposed to clarify, it is only supposed to obfuscate everything, make everything blurry, muddy, uncertain, then good job. Right? Good job. You succeeded.
Right. But then why on earth do we want to use it? It's
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That was frustrating. I just wanted to but yeah, I was with him for so much of it too, because I was like, yes, philosophy is really important to understand, how people think and reason. You're gonna do it. You're gonna do it, right? Everybody has an epistemology. Everybody makes use of arguments and evidence and facts. So you're either going to get kind of schooled in it and do it better, or you're just going to be like, I don't know what you're talking about, and you're just going to blindly do bad philosophy ignorantly the rest of your life. Like, I was with him there. I was like, bro, you actually making a good case for, like, let's set all the nonsense aside. There's some practical, everyday, muddy boots meet the road type of practicality for philosophy here. But then it just seemed like we couldn't actually then use it to actually decide any goddamn thing.
Right. Well, he seems
frustrating.
He's clearly dedicated to making sure he never decides.
That's what it felt like. Yeah,
there is something about clarity that he's not comfortable with. There is something about making a decision and taking a side that he's not comfortable with. And I don't know if it's because he thinks it'll undermine his credibility as a philosophical engager or whatever, or because once you take a side, then only half of the people listen to you from now on.
Right.
Or is it an emotional thing where maybe it'll cut him off from his family, where they can accept him as an agnostic but not as an atheist, even though it means the same goddamn thing.
Right.
Like, I don't know. Like it doesn't make any sense unless there's a whole set of motivations that he's not disclosing.
Yeah, and I don't know what they are. I don't know what they are, but it felt like, man, this guy, because I actually did really enjoy the way he talked about the substantive issues, right? He was very clear with the terminology. He was able to lay out the case for various arguments. And that's the type of thing that scares me, because it's one thing to me when a person can't do that. I'm like, oh, this person just doesn't know what's up. Like, let's put them on game and they'll be good to go. But this is like a person who you can tell has worked through all of these things and thought through them very deeply and written about them and engaged with other scholars about them. And I'm like, you still have no idea where you stand? like that's just
about anything, anything at all.
But now hold on, now, James, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
I don't know if James has heard me say this earlier in this broadcast here. I said it to the audience. I said it to Pocket Locker about this issue of the Hebrew Israelites. Like, who is true Israel? Who are the true descendants today? Mm-hmm. Don't be so quick to make up your mind. There are some things, no matter how much time you put into it, they may still cause you to scratch your head, or there could be a reason not to make a final decision. Now, as far as being vague, if you can be vague, you might please the most people, if that's what you're trying to do. But there are benefits to making a choice and sticking with it, and making a defined choice where it's not just sort of this middle way that's the blob, but sound
That's what it felt
decisions.
like to me. I'm okay if somebody says I don't know, and sometimes just I don't know, just I don't know. And sometimes I don't know because there's evidence on both sides is fine to me. We have certain conversations, you know, even James and I, where I'll have one opinion, he'll have the other, but we both see where each other's coming from. And so there's a clear way to articulate, you know, why I can't make up my mind, right? Or why it's 6.5 of why it's, you know, 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. But in this case, I didn't hear anything that articulated a really solid case for theism or for deism. Matter of fact, it seemed like every argument that came up for these things, he could really sharply be like, no, that's nonsense. But no, there's that doesn't make any sense. And no, it's a bunch of. But then it was like, but don't call any of it irrational. But don't, you know, it just, it was almost like James said, like it was almost like starting with a commitment to not making a call, and then going through everything, and then circling right back to, but I'm not going to make a call, which you know, I don't. It frustrates me. I don't think he's like a bad person for being that way or anything like. But it frustrated me, and it also felt a little bit like, and I don't know how much this is a case with Derek and other scholars. It's certainly the case with my life and the scholars I know that I actually, you know, work with. But there's such a disconnect between what they do every day and what goes on in this community every day that if I brought a scholar on and had a conversation about science or evolution or education, they would unknowingly fall into so many traps in this community. They would say so many things that I'd almost want to edit and delete out the conversation. And it's not because they're saying the wrong thing or they're saying something bad, but they'll say it in a way that if they understood the culture that they're having the conversation in, where you literally have flat earthers and creationists, you know, in the same chat as, you know, scientific people and real scholars, it's a language you would use, say, in it's the same language you'd use in a seminar on campus. But guess what? Guess who's in a seminar on campus? Students, faculty, and other educated people who are trying to progress in their education, right? So there's just it almost feels like a cultural insensitivity where it's like, I don't think that philosopher would want to spoon feed apologists reasons to undermine critical scholarship or credible, you know, research, but he did just because he was so non-committal in his stances on things. It was like, you could tear all their stuff down, but it's still standing. It's still great. It's still just as likely as ours. I don't really know. And so, and I don't think he did anything that, like, if he talked that same exact way in a collegiate setting or in a department seminar, nobody would have batted an eyelash, right? But it's just because of the way the conversations take place in this community that it was so problematic to me. James, do you feel that way at all? I don't know. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I'm not even sure what his focus or objective was to even be there as a guest at Mythvision, like, to show off how much you've studied things that you have no opinion about. Like,
that's what it felt like, and it was. Go ahead, Wayne.
Oh no, I'm just here listening, bro. Yeah, how do you study this shit for so long, and then when it comes down to brass tacks, you can't give an honest opinion? Like, that's sad, man. That's so sad.
No, forgive me, Wayne. Forgive me, Wayne. When you. Yeah. And I missed the beginning of this conversation because I was
sorry about that.
So, but it's okay. I know there was a guest on Mythvision. I probably paid attention for like 5 minutes to it because I had so many things going on today. When you're saying he can't, was he supposed to make a choice? Was he asked, "Hey, what choice have you made?" Was he asked that, or was he simply asked to make, to discuss about it at length, the topic at length?
Okay, I can see that I'm catching this after the fact as well. It just sounded
Okay,
like
okay.
there was a scholar that spent all this time studying this, but wouldn't give his actual what he feels about it. Honestly,
Well,
which
Wayne,
is
So
normal.
the title of the stream was "Does God Exist?"
No.
Philosophy
But-
with. Go ahead.
so Wayne, I think, and thank you, Pocket Locker.
Yeah.
The thing to consider, I've said this even in this broadcast. If there's so many facts, right, and you're not exactly sure about the sources, I know typically I try to find the oldest possible sources and not something modern. But I can't ignore what modern people say about this very old topic that maybe I'm researching. I can't deny it. Like, look, somebody's going to have a piece of insight that I don't. Just like people that hear me talk about my little project that I'm doing with the Gospel of John and Revelation. I'm against the consensus that 70 AD, the Gospels were written after 70 AD. And people say, oh, because they mentioned the destruction of the temple. And I'm like, that's not why the temple was supposed to be destroyed. Everything was supposed to be destroyed as a result of Jesus and his horsemen coming back. It's all supposed to get wiped out. So there's going to be a new heaven, a new earth, and a new Jerusalem descending from the sky. So Jesus is perfectly justified to say these things will be thrown down. That doesn't necessarily need to have anything to do with the Roman army. Now imagine if a scholar had never considered that. They only stuck with the consensus because they said, well, it just makes sense that all these things came later. It can be a room full of people that agree and are right.
We can hear you, James.
Oh, okay. He froze.
Oh, who froze?
I froze? Me?
I can still.
Yeah, he might have just frozen anything. Maybe refresh it, James.
Oh, okay. All right, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're still good on my screen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So I think everyone understands my point very well. Look, the person with the strange opinion might be right.
So that is,
and the consensus could be wrong.
Absolutely.
Could be.
Go ahead, James. Go ahead.
If you gave this guy a 10-year project to learn everything he could about how water works, right? It's hydrology is actually, there's a specialty for that. Everything about water. We want to understand why it moves the way that it moves, why electrical current works the way that it works in water, what we should do about the water crisis, what kinds of water are good to drink or not good to drink. This guy at the end of that 10 years would tell you, I'm no longer sure water exists. I just don't have an opinion about it. I don't know. I can tell you anything about water now that I studied it for 10 years, right? I had opinions about water before, but now that I've studied it, I have no opinions at all.
Yeah, to be honest,
James, what does water mean to you, James?
That's what this was about.
Can you define water for me? Because then I can speak about it on your terms. Until you do that, I can't really, because we have to narrow down
here's the thing.
My studies. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that's what it felt like. It felt like literally some people educate themselves out of knowledge, and that's a real problem to me. Education is supposed to bring you closer to an understanding of something, and some people are so fascinated understanding all the possible angles of something that they're no longer even directing themselves towards the most likely ones, or because there's always going to be outliers of somebody who thinks they've got some weird and wacky theory that explains everything that none of the experts know, but it isn't really reasonable to expect most of us to proceed that way through everyday life. And I don't even have a problem with scholars, being able to lay it all out, but it was, I don't know. I would actually suggest watch. I think it was a good stream. I don't think Derek did anything problematic. He's got guests on there we love, guests on there we like, and sometimes guests on there we just disagree with them. Like he didn't say anything crazy, or you know what I mean. Like he just felt wishy-washy to me, right? And
every proposition of God that he put on the table to talk about because someone asked him to, his conclusion was, "Man, we got no way to know. We got no way to know." And it's like, if I told him that I worship the God who made sure that a loaf of bread could never exist in any universe during any time, since the beginning of time to the end of the time, that's his only job. He's the God of fuck, nobody's making a goddamn single loaf of bread. That's the God that he is, right? And then somebody comes up and says, "Well, here's a loaf of bread." He'd be the guy that says, "Well, now there's a good argument for why that God doesn't exist, but it's not conclusive. The God that has made sure no bread could ever possibly exist might still be a legitimate proposition." And I'm like, "Well, dude, I'm holding a loaf of bread."
James, you're forgetting the exception proves the rule. So the one loaf of bread, I'm kidding you, James, but the single loaf of bread proves your point that this God only made a loaf of bread exist to prove that there's no bread anywhere else. And then he goes back to doing his job.
Yeah, so
always wiggle out of it.
That's exactly what it was. And that's honestly what I mean too, because again, that's what this community does, right? Is they take anybody's reasoned, oh, well, I can't exactly prove it, or, well, I'm not 100% certain, and then they run with it, right? And so if you don't know, to me, you gotta know that. And I think there was a couple problems I noticed. So number one was the academic disconnect. And again, I'm not trying to throw them under the bus. I'm literally being honest. I think I probably do it all the time, but I'm certain 9 to 10 of my the scholars in my field would do it way worse than me, because they just don't know what the rhetorical landmines in this community are, for lack of a better way to put it, right? And so they'd step on all of them, just not realizing that there was in fact landmines all over the place. The other problem to me is unique to philosophy, which is a lot of us in this community, and I think Derek included, we kind of, I don't want to say we shit on philosophy, but we're kind of not we're not philosophiles, right? We're not really super excited when the conversations turn to the super deep philosophy, which they often do in this community. You kind of lose people like us because we're more into science, history, stuff we could really grab a hold of. And I felt like this conversation was Derek really trying, as not a philosophy lover, to give philosophy its due. To let's have a charitable, favorable, great philosophy conversation. And part of what I think we were trying to do in this conversation is say, let's set aside a lot of these conversations that we have in this community amongst apologists and people who are bad faith actors, because they're probably giving philosophy a bad name. And Derek even said it. They're doing a lot of this mental masturbation, making up words, intellectual circle jerk, where it just feels like they're making up all this philosophical jargon, and at the end of the day, nobody's really talking about anything. And to this guy's credit, he then articulated why that's really unfortunate and it shouldn't be the case. And he made this great practical case for philosophy. It was very much what you want every 8th grader to hear about philosophy, so they know philosophy's cool and you should in fact study it, right? Look, everybody's gonna do philosophy whether you like it or not. Better to learn what's going on, get some of these terms down, get education, then you'll be better to go. He was very clear. He was like, those people are using philosophy in ways that obfuscate everything, but philosophy should really be used to bring about clarity. It should help bring things into focus. And then we're all like, yes, this is what we've needed to hear. All right, let's give this philosophy thing a second chance, right? And then all of these issues came up, which were just pretty simple, and he would do a really great job of articulating what the issue is, what the landscape is, what the various positions are. I'm like, all right, this guy really knows his stuff. And then he'd just be like, but I can't really say. There's arguments over here, there's arguments over there. It could be this, it could be that. And it was really like you just undermined that argument. No one is going to hear to see this conversation and go, oh yes, and then here's a great conversation of the type of practical clarity philosophy can add to your life. They're gonna feel just the opposite. They're gonna be like, I don't know. It seems like all the amateurs are pretty clear that most of this God concepts that came up are a bunch of nonsense. But the PhD in the room is the only person that can't seem to say that no, this is nonsense. Period. End of story.
So, maybe the flying spaghetti monster exists. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe every single shadow is a shadow monster and you should jump when you see one. Who knows?
But yeah, it was just interesting. Now, but again, to speak to why Derek brought him, I think he's a good philosopher, and Derek wants to have good scholars on who can help clarify the issues thing. So yeah, and I think it speaks to Derek's what we know about Derek, right? Derek doesn't hold someone to their conclusions. He doesn't start with what do you believe? Okay, and now we'll decide if you can come onto my show or not. I think Derek's thing is, is your scholarship good? Do you know what you're saying? Can you discuss these issues intelligently? And I think he did. I was just wondering how other people in the community felt about it, because those were some of my observations. And it wasn't even, I didn't blow up the chat about it or anything like that, because I don't know, I didn't, I'm not trying to be destructive with it. It was just my opinion. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
It was worthless, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, you could literally throw any proposition out there. I don't know if SpongeBob's real or not. I've heard good arguments for how it is, good arguments for how he isn't. Just because we actually know how SpongeBob was created doesn't mean SpongeBob was created. It could have always been to God, and it was simply revealed to the guy who created the SpongeBob cartoon. We don't really know. It's like, okay, thanks for that.
SpongeBob was created on the 8th day.
Yeah. And I have a real problem with the elephant in the room, which is I don't know why people won't address the fact that gods are the products of human imaginations. It's like I'm not even messing with any of these quote unquote serious conversations until that's put on the table as a serious possibility, because it's the problem I have when we start having serious conversations about deism. I'm just going, but where is it coming from? It's always coming from trying to get to a theist God from a deist argument, but the theist God comes from books. So where does a deist God come from, other than to say, I want to get rid of the interpersonal stuff, I want to get rid of all the stuff that's clearly not true, but I want to hang on to this concept anyway. Okay, just give me a source of the concept that isn't one of those religious books, and nobody can point me to one. And I just think it's odd that we don't say that more plainly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, let's get into some of this tape so we can get back to these Brad Clues with Hebrew Israelites. I just wanted to take a quick philosophy intermission. Which is rare, but we were crapping on philosophy, so that's why.
Y'all were talking about Black Hebrew Israelites?
Yeah.
Dang, I've been here for a minute and y'all ain't mentioned them.
So I'll probably be back. This isn't a particular topic that I have any special knowledge of.
Sure.
And Stephanie's getting ready to talk to Maya about problems, about views about trans people in our actual community.
So where's that going to be?
On Maya's channel. I mean, it's
Can you share a link with us?
I think it just happened just now. It just started. Maya uploaded open room conversation lamenting the community's trans views with Stephanie Helms. Oh, it's not alive. It's uploaded.
All right. We're almost done. I'll watch it. We'll watch it here and gather right after this if you want.
All right.
Yeah. Let's do that. All right. Let's get back to this footage so we can get through this, and we'll do that. But all right, this is gonna be fun. Glad you guys are here.
Argue up and down about how you are the chosen people. You are the ones who
she's talking about traditional, what we consider quote unquote traditional Jews, in case anybody was wondering.
Beat certain doctrines into the heads of humanity for a very long time, especially into the heads of those that were enslaved for hundreds of years. You beat your doctrines, be it Islam or Christianity, into the heads of so-called black slaves for a very long time. And it wasn't until recently that many of us started to opt out of those religions that were beat into our heads. So we were playing the game for a long time. But now that a different narrative is being brought to the forefront, there are questions that are popping up now where a lot of people are starting to question, who are the chosen people? So now what you have are all of these religious people that are coming out swinging with bats and swords and all of this other stuff. saying that somebody's trying to steal their heritage. Someone is trying to steal their culture. We've even had religious people
All right, I
contact.
just changed my mind. I want this to be true. I want this to be true. Because
You do?
yes, I just think traditional Judaism, and in this country especially, and in Europe, gets a pass. It just gets a pass. It gets to be the sophisticated, no, we're really questioning everything, religion. And I can't stand it because there's no such thing. There's no such thing. There's no religion that's that way. That's not. If you want credit for being the honest, scholastic, intellectually deep questioning, then you'd be an atheist. And if you want to question God's existence, right? You ask every question of God except, does he exist? And the answer is clearly no. And I got to keep pretending that they're like the smartest people in the room. So yes, I would love for it to turn out that we do some better anthropology and archaeology and all of that. And it turns out that the Hebrew religion is straight up stolen from some Negroes. Yes, I'm here for it.
Okay. So as many of you know, if you've not just tuned in, you very well understand that I think that if that happened, if that is the case, that it could be proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that Jesus was indeed a black person, Christianity dies.
Exactly. This guy is beautiful. It's beautiful.
Oh, absolutely.
Instantly.
Exactly. This is
100%.
it's a great thing for atheists, for all this to be black.
All those dudes in the Klan are immediately going to have a meeting, the biggest Klan meeting ever. Is there a plan B for us? Because we've been pushing this Christian thing. No, that we didn't think about it, dude. Like, we thought they were all like crazy.
No, they're probably going to have a meeting like the Catholic Church did about molesting the kids, and they're just going to pretend like it didn't happen. That's what's going to happen. They're just going to all look at each other and be like, no, we're going to start a new denomination where Jesus is white. Is
there a different Jesus? Can we say we meant the other guy the whole time?
Oh yeah, it'll be misplaced it, mistimed it. Jesus' divine nature was transfigured or something.
Look. Oh, now Mary is they'll say, well, maybe that explains why there's so many. Mary is an example. She was possibly a teenage mother who wasn't married. Look at how prevalent that is in the black community. Yeah, all these things will start to make sense. A welfare queen. Well, hey, let's be honest. It says the Holy Spirit came down to her. I mean, talk about getting a handout. Oh my gosh. She gave birth to the Messiah. I'm pretty sure she was considered special by the divine.
Exactly. Or they're going to go the other route. Because seriously, like, think of all the literally working women, right, who would have consensually given it up for a couple of bucks and Jesus their way into retirement. But God's plan sucks, y'all.
Well, I think a lot of people, when we look at sports in the United States, let's take the NBA, for example. There are a lot of basketball players who are black, and plenty of non-black people buy their jerseys. The same is true. Like, I'm not from Louisiana, but I was working there, and I kept seeing all these people with Drew Brees jerseys on. I didn't know who the hell Drew Brees was. And I sat down one day and Googled him because I would see all these black people with Drew Brees jerseys. I'm like,
yeah.
Oh, wow, Drew Brees is in black.
No.
Oh, he's a quarterback.
He's a quarterback.
Yeah, he's a quarterback.
He transcends. That's the one identity in America that transcends race.
He transcends. Okay. So, but it turns out he's probably a pretty awesome quarterback for so many people. He was great.
One of the best ever.
Yeah.
Good. So quick football aside here while Wayne's here and you're here. There was apparently a controversy at the Super Bowl because people are pissed that they played the Black National Anthem. And I would just like to say, why is it that white people are always so mad that they can't say the N-word, but y'all are not fighting for the right to sing the Black National Anthem? Now, what's up with that? I thought y'all was trying to be down. Like, what's What's going on?
I'll speak for all white people. We didn't know that there was a black national anthem.
Now they're a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, now they upset.
This was not a widely known matter.
I thought y'all wanted to say what black people say. Look, we say sing a song. Come on, white people sing it with us.
well, look, at a hockey game, if I am from Canada, they play the Canadian national anthem. And in the United States, they play the Star Spangled Banner. It's to honor the different nationalities participating in that game. What?
The black national anthem is the only national anthem Americans don't want to hear. Every single heavyweight boxing match we have for any title, from ultra uber featherweight to super ultra mega heavyweight, starts with the national anthems of both fighters, and a lot of times ain't neither one of them from the United States of America. They'll play both them national anthems and play God Bless America right on after, and let them two dudes punch each other in the face for the next 90 minutes. What seems to be the problem? But boy, when they play that black national anthem, just Americans just losing their minds, just really, really upset. And here's the worst part about it, y'all. It's during Black History Month. We can't play the black national anthem during Black History Month. Do y'all not see the problem here?
Pocket locker.
For Negroes, we're supposed to be broken at all times in American history.
You've been given an entire month. All right?
The shortest month.
Right. About 5 minutes worth of singing. You can do that when you get home. You can have Black National Anthem karaoke in the car with your family. You don't need to be doing that at the Super Bowl. For all these people who pay $600 or whatever per ticket, you can just let that go. Sing it on the way home.
Right. I'm trying to figure out who's upset by that too, because like it's the Super Bowl. Shouldn't you be drunk already? Like,
shouldn't you be drunk already? Singing along, but I'm saying, think about it. If your awkward white friend was doing that, just instead of being like, well, I could sing along to all the rap song. If he was singing the black national anthem, now he would be drunk. He would look stupid, but you would look at him and be like, that's an ally right there. That's a motherfucking ally right there.
Did Justin? Now, what maybe they should have done. And I don't know that I didn't watch the game. I pay no attention to it.
It was a good Super Bowl, man. We only get one every decade or so. You should have paid attention.
If Justin Timberlake had come out and sang it, you solve all the problems. Justin Timberlake's cool. He's got a fantastic voice. People like him. Yeah. He's even funny.
He's white. He's white, but brothers let him pass. You know, he cool.
Like Jesus, he transcends color. Yeah. Justin Timberlake, and you can quote me on that. Tweet him this. Justin Timberlake, you transcend color like Jesus. Yeah, well done.
Well, because if you don't give Justin Timberlake a pass, you got to admit he's better than a lot of brothers. So we don't want to do it. Nah, he just an honorary brother. He just in a part of distribution. He becomes one of us magically. Yeah, the rest of y'all stay over there.
Magically, yes.
The rest of y'all stay over there. Yeah, the rest of y'all stay over there with Lance and.
The rest of the group.
With Lance and them.
Those talented guys.
All right, yeah, we're going to get back to this video real quick. That was fun. Sorry about that.
It's okay. Yeah, this would
say that we have no right to teach on anything as it relates to the religion of the so-called chosen people in the land of Israel. You know who I'm talking about. Those who everyone accepted as the chosen people back in 1948. We've had folk contact us saying that we have no rabbinical authority to teach the things that we teach. And that we're trying to steal someone's culture. Now, if you had all this faith, love, and trust in your God, you wouldn't even have a need to contact us and say anything. You know why? Because your faith will be so strong that you would have confidence to know that he knows who his people are, right? Your God should know who his people are. Do you think anything we say or teach is going to confuse him to the point where when he does set the record straight on who his people are, that he's going to be confused, like, oh my goodness, I don't know who my people are, because these people are teaching that they're the chosen seed, and those folk are teaching that they're the chosen seed. I just don't know. I'm so confused.
But why don't he just come down and settle it now?
Pay attention to what I'm saying here. No one who is the chosen seed needs to fight any other group of people about who's the chosen seed. If you believe that you're the chosen seed, teach that to your people. But there is no need to contact people who believe that they are the Israelites and tell them that they're trying to steal your culture. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what people around the world believe. What matters is what the man upstairs believes, because he knows who his people are. He ain't some dumb nitwit God who doesn't know who his people are.
Yeah, not some nitwit like James who leaves before I'm done talking about his stuff. I have something to say, but go ahead, my one black friend.
All right, let's go to the Bible. 1 Kings chapter 22, verse, where are we starting here? 19. And he said, hear thou therefore the word of the Lord. I saw the Lord sitting on his throne, and all the host of heaven standing by him on his right and on his left. And the Lord said, who shall persuade Ahab that he may go up and fall at, and I'm not saying this right, Ramoth Gilead? And one said on this manner, and another said on that manner. So God's court of individuals are having a discussion. And therefore came forth a spirit and stood before the Lord and said, I will persuade him. And the Lord said unto him, wherewith? Like, how are you going to do it? And he said, I will go forth, and I will be a lying spirit in the mouth of all his prophets. And he said, thou shalt persuade him and prevail. Go forth and do so. How do we know that someone up in heaven, just saying, like, I got to grant heaven is legit?
Totally legit.
How do we know that someone didn't say the same thing? Look, I'll go forth and be a lying spirit in the mouth of the Hebrew Israelites. And now that there's YouTube, I don't have to be down there that long.
Yep.
Yeah. I'll be right back. It's faster than the Holy Spirit was with Mary. I'll be right back up here. And so now there's this belief, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't take much other than someone who, and there are plenty of these Hebrew Israelites who are able in the scriptures. They are just brilliant with their interpretations. The best video on YouTube for my money is Invasion of the Astro Monster, which is a Godzilla movie. But the second best video on YouTube is General Yohana and G-Man. Commanding General Yohana is a Hebrew Israelite, and he's having a discussion with G-Man. It is mind-blowing, his interpretations of things, where I'm like, you know what? That guy can make it all crystal clear. So when he explains to you why he is a Hebrew Israelite, and I tried to interview him, but it just didn't work out. When he explains why he's a Hebrew Israelite, you'll be silent. By the time he's done talking, you'll be silent. All he did was sit there and prove G-Man wrong as G-Man's presenting all these challenges to him. And I'm like, G-Man is not listening because G-Man wants to be right. And what we may have here, that could be a microcosm of this argument. Both sides don't listen well to each other in the macro, right?
Yeah, because that's kind of what I feel like going on.
They want to be right.
And I feel like also this is sometimes where the labels are going on, because I imagine an ancient world that was even more bigoted and prejudiced and racist than this one. And so I feel like whatever groups were in power were keeping the other groups out. So if you're today a black Hebrew Israelite, whether you're claiming or reclaiming or whatever, it's like, I get why people reject that, because they don't want you to bastardize, their heritage. And I think if I'm understanding their claims charitably, that's what they feel like is happening, and I try to be sympathetic to that, right? Now, at the same time, if you're now wearing the Black Hebrew Israelite label, you may not really be a part of that. You may be just, practicing your community was handed down to you. You're just doing your thing. But you're seeing that because of the way y'all live, because of the way y'all practice, y'all are legit Hebrews, y'all are legit Israelites. Well, then now you could imagine the people who feel like you're taking away their identity. Now they're attacking you, right? Because I'm sure if we went to the people who said, why would you send these sweet Hebrew Israelites these angry, mean letters telling them they're not really Israelites and calling them names and stuff like that? They'd be like, no, it's because they're trying to take over our heritage. And then she would be like, I never did anything. I'm not trying to. I don't even know you. Like, I never sent anything to you. But it's the bigger, like you said, microcosm that's going on, and these are just people hanging the labels, for their teams, and they're caught up in it.
There are some things, some behaviors, as Spider pointed out, that can be unfair, right? He spoke about the rabbis in Israel sort of promoting this idea that they are superior in some kind of way. If you watch the videos of the street corner Hebrew Israelites who are shouting with bullhorns or whatever they have, and they're singling out certain people that walk by them, and they begin to degrade them. I don't know how common it is. I've seen videos. I might have seen every video where it happens, and there's just a handful of those. I'm not saying this is every day. I'm not saying it's ubiquitous, right? But you have those people with a very similar attitude, and that's the shame. Because would they have had that prejudice if they didn't have the belief? How does someone? This is not anything. This is not anything I understand. Why does anyone feel the need to be superior?
That's those are the two problems right there. Number one being the fact that as a society we won't talk about the fact that people wouldn't have all these prejudices if they didn't have their religion. It's like that.
It is a motivating factor. Yeah, it's not the only one.
Yeah, but it's like that and money and politics are the two elephants in the room. They're the two things that everybody knows, but you can't ever really talk about. Even though if you look to that, you can almost explain everything. Like, everybody knows when you want to really know what's going on in politics, just follow the money. Everybody knows if you're talking about this group hates this group, just go to their religious beliefs and you'll probably understand at least why one of these sides hates the other one. Almost guaranteed. So it's just like, and it's crazy that we won't have that conversation. Yeah.
Well, look, I mean, for Christianity, for all the things that are beautiful about it, and there are things that are beautiful about it, it goes horror show for a while. Stained glass, okay. It goes horror show for a while. And if you read the book of Revelation about how all these non-believers are going to be made to suffer because we didn't love Jesus. We didn't believe in his name.
Right.
You mean that's it? I don't have to be. I can literally, the Bible will tell you, you can be a good person and you're still going down. Enoch talks about all these places in this desert that are made for the bad angels to go. And now we learn in the New Testament that's where people like me are going to go. Now, I'll probably be in management. So I'll take real good care of Ken Ham and Kenneth Copeland. I'll be their supervisor. But look, it's to say there's a reason you get a reward for being one of us. Jesus will see to it.
Yeah.
Jesus will intercede on your behalf.
Absolutely.
And you can begin that process today.
Absolutely.
Become a Christian, and it's going to be absolutely wonderful. Now,
again, if you're going to grift people, you got to give them something that makes them feel special.
Yes, 100%. And there's something fundamentally immoral
you can give
about
them
that.
You can give them nothing and make them feel special.
Make them feel special.
Lyndon B. Johnson said something on the order of, if you convince the lowest white man that he's better than the highest black man, you don't have to get him. You don't have to convince him to turn out his pockets. He'll turn out his pockets for you.
That's 100%.
That's why Trump did so well. He's degrading all these other people,
Yes.
which made people
Yes.
like him feel better.
Yes, it's
And
why
they-
religion works. Yeah, no, go ahead.
It's,
I was gonna,
it's one
yeah,
of the ways.
yeah, but the thing
I
is,
think it's crossing your legs. Religion, again, the God of the Bible is crossing your legs. It's comfort for
yeah,
most people.
he just, but to me, it's also a moral failure of the individual. God fails because he's a moral monster. It's an absolute moral monster. There's no other way. You're just not reading it.
And his own book says so. His own book says so, right?
But for the believer, that is a moral failure too. It's because at the end of the day, you worship the idea because it told you you were better than everybody else, because it told you you were special. And believe it or not, even though you think that makes you an upstanding human being, it actually reveals a fundamental moral failing, because why do you want to be better than the rest of us?
100%, Jay. That's
is-
one of the main reasons I walked away from Christianity, because I decided that I liked other people more than I liked feeling superior to people. Yeah.
Really? Now let me ask you, Wayne, in what ways were you taught that you would be superior as a Christian? I'm curious.
Oh, that just because I believe in Jesus that I go to heaven, and like all these other people that I see in my life, like I work in a lot of nonprofits throughout my entire life, and I would see people of different faiths trying just as hard, doing all the right stuff, doing all the Christian things, except believing in Jesus and giving their whole life to like helping other people. But those people are going to be in that desert that you were talking about with the angels too. Nah, I don't need to feel superior to someone to feel connected to other people. You know what I mean? So
I had it's funny you say that. I had a Palestinian Uber driver when I was coming. I left my hotel or my work site, and I was going to the airport, and I had a Palestinian driver. I always ask my Uber drivers where they're from, because it's really like a sampling of the world. It's fantastic. She was from Palestine, so we talked about life in Palestine. I was very curious about that. Very curious about Islam, because she was a Muslim. She is a Muslim, and I got the unique sense that Islam is one of those religions where, though there's no, again, this is talking to one person. I'm not asking the imam. I'm asking her. But the reward, one of the true rewards of being alive at all, is being giving to other people. She's not talking about honor killings. We didn't focus on that. We focused on the stuff that nobody talks about, right? The stuff that they don't put on Fox News about Islam. We spoke about those things because I didn't know what those things were, and I asked her. But think of that, the beauty of that. If the reward is merely in doing for someone else, and any benefit you derive from it is strictly collateral, right? That's not a bad way. And let's take that and we just erase the religion part from it. So there's no religious motivation. There's no goal after you die. The only benefits are here and now. And if you're lucky, if you do something really amazing, like you cure something, cancer, let's say, for thousands of years, maybe millions of years, however long the human race does continue, people will benefit from your genius.
To me, that's the problem, because when we should start with that as the baseline, but unfortunately, because of religion, you're taking something from somebody when you give them that reality. Like, that's what's sad about most of the deconversion process for people, is that there's only that, which is fine. That's what the rest of us come comfortable with. But for a lot of us, that's a real maturation, because they were getting a supernatural reward. They were going to go to heaven. They were going to get, cookies from Jesus. And now you're telling them, oh, I'm just not faithful to my wife. And the benefit is I just have a healthier relationship with my wife. That's it. And it's like, yeah, man, that's it. That's it. That's the one, you know, and it feels like you've taken something from them.
But you have, and that's very real. I've spoken with a lot of Christians who are trying to convert me. By the way, if you are Christian and you see me somewhere and you feel like you should convert me, just be prepared to have a lot of extra money because you won't be tithing much longer. They expect heaven, pocket locker. It's supposed to be wonderful there. You know, God is on fire, basically, when you read the descriptions of him in his great hall. You know, he was just a little bit, he's with his court of people, you know, trying to figure out how to screw these people down on earth. How do I screw them over? You get to be in the presence of a God that doesn't have any characteristics like that because they've never read this.
Right.
They don't understand that this God is up there rubbing his hands together or whatever he's got, pause, but I don't know, plotting against people down here on earth, thinking up maybe a new disease to infect people with, a way to make people who are comfortable uncomfortable, because he's
just in my fantasy, he's literally just sitting on the cure to COVID, you know, cooking up the next earthquake.
He's got the meat. He's got the meat that makes the McRib. He's got it in the refrigerator.
Trying to figure out new vaginal diseases for women, like all sorts of shit.
But heaven, the idea of heaven is what they're sold on. I don't think it's the idea of God.
No, not at all.
I think it's going on in a beautiful eternity where you're surrounded by loving. Think of it. It's sort of what we need to do down here in a way. And I'm being very touchy-feely right now, but to make life on earth heavenly. Not that you'll live forever. We know that's not possible right now, but at least that you can walk down the street or your kids can play outside and you're not afraid for their safety. That grandma who you love spending time with, you can see her anytime you want because she's still around. If you have a body with, you know, that's unhealthy, you're healed. If you were blind, you can see. If you were wheelchair bound, you can walk. All the ills of human society have been done away with. And now you have time to do all the things you didn't do down here, right? Except for get married, because people don't do that in heaven. We know that from Jesus. But other than that,
everybody's married to Jesus. It's a big old marriage, like
which is to me, I don't know why they come down against gay people so much. I'm like, you do realize that's gay marriage. If I'm married to Jesus, if I'm part of his bride and I'm a dude, like that's all sorts of issues there for you guys. Maybe you shouldn't be so prejudiced. But anyway, you can't talk to them about that sort of thing. They won't.
Super quick too. Jay, you just reminded me of something funny as fuck Jay said the other day. So funny, I just spun out. When Jay, the other day when you said motherfuckers are trying to get to heaven, but they can't even spend an hour in church.
Yeah, that was my thing, because the real truth is it's not even just that. It's that if you ask a lot of Christians what they love about their church, they will literally describe it almost like they're hunting for churches with shorter services. Like, oh goodness, my parents made me go to that Baptist church, man. We were in church from 9 o'clock to 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I couldn't stand that, you know? And they're like, oh, I love this church, man. We be in there. Yeah, they get us about 3 or 4 songs, pastor preach for about a half hour, about another 2 songs, and we up out the door about 90 minutes or less. You know, it's really great. My girlfriend go to church over town, though. They only been there for an hour. I really like that, but you know,
right.
It's like right on the top of their list of what's important about the lifestyle of being a Christian is you really don't want to be in church all day. And then somehow they be trying to sell you that they want to be in heaven with Jesus forever. And I'm like, you don't want to be with Jesus for 180 minutes. You know,
let's be honest. Let's be honest. The line to see Jesus is going to be a long one.
Yeah, right.
And if I went to heaven, I've said this before, God and Jesus would be like, we almost forgot you were here. You didn't come see us. And I go, no, my grandma's right there.
Right.
You know, my other reasons over there. What I need to see you guys for? You got something to say? You can like give me a download or whatever. But them, I can't do that with them. I wanted to see more of them. Here I am. You know, I got my fiance at my side and my kids. You know, if it's that far down the line, why would I be rushing to God or Jesus? They're not even the best part. The best part is all those other souls that I get to see.
But Wayne, again, I'm going to tell you, just like we called the fraud on spending all day with Jesus, right?
Mm-hmm.
Motherfuckers don't want to spend 10 minutes on the phone with grandma. Let's keep it real. You can call grandma right now. You could be in church with grandma this Sunday and you're not even thinking about it. You can't think of a worse way to spend your Sunday. Oh,
I'm gonna respectfully say I have a look. I have a difference.
You have a good grandma. Go ahead.
If my grandmother was still alive and she wanted my atheist butt to go to church with her, I'm gonna drive her there.
Yeah,
yes, grandma.
Yes.
My fiance got me a couple new neckties. I'll put one on for you. You know,
that's how I feel about Gigi Ma. Yep, my great grandma.
So there you go.
She would ask anything, I'm there.
Yeah.
Now,
but y'all know what I'm saying, though. Keep it real, though. A lot of us know we got a lot of relatives we ain't even trying to see right now.
Well, knowing my grandmother, she would say, "Now, if you disagree with anything, speak up."
Yeah, grandma, he's great.
I went to church. I went to church with my aunt and uncle down in Alabama, and sure enough, after the service, I have an uncle who's a minister. He did the same thing. After I went to his service, he says, "Are there any questions?" I didn't have any questions for him. But when I went with another aunt and uncle, their minister, any questions? This church is packed. Lexus after Lexus in the parking lot of this church.
Of course.
I stood up. I have some questions. And I challenged the minister on how he was doing something. And to his credit, he answered me in a way. All these people yes, he did. All these people in his congregation looked at me while I was asking my question, and they looked at him as he answered it. And he had to think about his own actions because he didn't behave in a way that he would have told pretty much anybody else in his congregation they should. Now, as a guest, I'm okay to call him on it, I guess. Anybody else in that church might have said something to him after or said nothing. Well, he makes good decisions. You know, clearly. I mean, that building they were in wasn't cheap. And like I said, that parking lot, you would have thought they're selling.
Well, I was just going to say, I just realized one demographic of people that needs to go to church is Lexus dealers, you know. That's, you know, because you got to imagine, right? That's the place where you're going to sell the most cars because people need to have them because it's painful. They've been praying for them, and it's painful. Every Sunday they show up in that 13-year-old used Hyundai. They be looking at every car on the way in. And, right? It's not like the rest of us. The rest of us see, you see a Lexus on a TV commercial. You don't really care. You go to work. All right, maybe the boss, or you see one or two luxury cars. You don't really care. But you go to one of these mega churches, bro, you just be driving in the aisle like this, just looking by row after row after row after row of luxury cars. And that it's just going to hurt you just a little bit. Every Sunday you got to drive past all them luxury cars and pull into a little spot. And don't mess around and go to a church like mine, my mother's old church, where they have the valet parking at the church. So you really got to pull up in front of everybody and hand your keys to somebody in that beater when everybody got these luxury cars. No, that's the place to be on Sunday morning if you're a luxury car dealer. Right there in church. Like, I got a solution for this problem right now.
I may switch careers. Your point is noted. Your point is noted. I do okay, but
Oh
Yeah.
man.
Running out of business cards every weekend.
All right, let's hear about these black chosen people, man. They're
right.
convincing me, man. Maybe they
Oh,
was all
super
black.
He's
quick.
not
Oh,
sit-
go ahead, Wayne.
Have y'all have never interacted with Black Israelites in real life? Y'all haven't?
I
Y'all
was
haven't
on
seen them out in the-
Sinetta. I've been on
I have.
Sinetta.
Oh, okay.
Sonetta, yeah.
I got cred, man. I'm
so
out here.
Oh, okay.
I have Wayne. Now, when I was a kid, and I mean a young kid, like 6, all the way to maybe 13. A lot of my father was a Baha'i minister, which I didn't even know until after I knew this after he died. I didn't know this while he was alive, and it turns out he was kind of a big deal.
Wow.
But again, you wouldn't have known that.
Right. Bahai's not the worst. But go ahead. Yeah.
It's not the worst. But I would meet a lot of his friends, and I would hear, son, when you read Israel in the Bible, that's you.
Yeah.
That's you.
Yeah.
They would say things of that nature to me. Now, I was so young, like, but I don't read the Bible. I don't read much of anything. But this is what I'm hearing from them again and again. And that's why this subject fascinates me so much, because I'm expecting that some dots might be connected as I look into it. And I'll say this, many have. When they talk about how the different regions that Black Jews were in, and she may not get into this. I don't think she will in this particular talk. But I put in the comment section for astonishingly convincing commentary on this topic, search for Benaya Ben Israel on YouTube. That's Benaya, Bena is an apple, YAH is in Henry. Benaya Ben Israel. If you this guy has well-produced videos, he gives you his sources. And like myself, I want the old sources, and that's what he looks for. He wants old stuff before you get this 21st century agenda and 20th century agenda. That's what he wants to use as references. So although I don't agree 100% with what he says, because I do have some concerns about how people hundreds of years ago, 600-700 years ago, used the word black to refer to people. However, I think the guy, he makes some very convincing points. I still don't know if he's right. Like that dude on Derek's show. I'm not making my mind up just yet. But again, it's compelling. It's convincing. Go ahead, Pocket Locker.
All right.
Up there like a ball of confusion, saying, who are my people? Because so many people are claiming to be my people. If it's those in the land of Israel, do you think he would know that? Huh? Wouldn't he know that? And it wouldn't be anything that I or any Israelite had to say to change that. If you are the chosen people, then nothing we say or do should bother you. If so-called Europeans are Yah's chosen seed, then nothing we say or do should bother you, because isn't your God smart enough to know who his people are? If Muslims are his chosen people, or the people of Islam, or any other racial group around this world, don't get so bothered and frayed and torn to pieces when you hear someone calling themselves the chosen seed. That shows your lack of faith and trust in your own God. You don't believe that he knows what he's doing. You think he's going to be so confused when he comes back that he's going to pick the wrong group of people. If you really
no
love
one trusts their God. That's why they pray.
No one
no matter
trusts
who
their God.
you are, just trust and believe that he knows who his people are. And there's not going to be anything that anyone can do to cast any confusion before him.
Pause it, please. Zechariah chapter 14:21. So it would be great to have Dr. Josh here for this. So as I'm doing my study for my whole John and Revelation came first sort of thing, I find little things that are interesting. I would put Revelation, the first draft of it, if you will, the first iteration of it, around the time that maybe Ezekiel was written. This, what I'm about to read you, read you is from the book Zechariah. I think it's the last verse. 14:21. Yea, every pot in Jerusalem and in Judah shall be holiness unto the Lord of hosts, and all those who sacrifice shall come and take of them and boil therein. And in that day there shall be no more the Canaanite in the house of the Lord of hosts. So we've probably heard, if you've been listening to or watching or studying the debate on were the Jews Canaanites? Were they simply Canaanites? Look what this says. And in that day there shall be no more the Canaanite in the house of the Lord of hosts. So you have the Jews that went off to Babylon. I'd put my money that they wrote this. Coming back from Babylon, they wrote this because those Canaanite Jews are still there. They're still there. So that house of the Lord was to be refurbished at this time. And I think they're just trying to kick the people who didn't get hauled off to Babylon, their descendants, they're trying to kick them out so they can take over again and have it be their way because they felt superior to the poor Jews that were left behind to be vine dressers and such. So
nobody expects to be chosen without some privileges, usually at the expense of the non-chosen.
Now, if your God is that easily confused and thrown off by human teachings, then maybe you need to stop serving him.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe you need to stop trusting in him. If you think he's going to be confused and pick the Negroes over you. Now, what I'm trying to say is if you are the chosen seed, no need to concern yourself about some Negroes who believe that they are the chosen seed.
Now,
if she is of the chosen seed,
exactly.
If that knowledge holds true, if she is of the chosen seed, there is no need for her to concern herself about some Ukrainians, some Russians, some Germans, some Spanish Jews, some Polish Jews. There's no need to worry about those people. Just let them be. Let them enjoy their faith and their communities and have a wonderful time here.
All right, but where do they grow them locks from? Them Wayne, they be growing. That's just like side.
Okay, you may remember they're not allowed to cut hair on the sides of their temples. Basically, you're not supposed to cut your hair there.
You're not supposed to grow dreadlocks because you're not supposed.
Is it?
Yeah, but they just apply it to the whole head.
Oh, okay. Well, so be it. And they're not supposed to cut their beards either. It's one of the laws. They're supposed to let their beard grow. Now, I think if you're mourning someone, I'm pretty sure if you're mourning someone, you can cut your beard. There's I think it's in, what's that book?
Yeah, I think it says
it's like
trim his locks or the edge of his beard. And so then I think they interpret that differently. Yeah. But
so
they're also not supposed to touch women ever. Like, they have to do a magic prayer and try and shake off the cooties if they come into contact with a female who's like not their wife or their sister. Yeah, it's insane.
Oh, okay. Well, there's and I think it's in Chronicles where these guys had their beards cut off and they had to hide them. They were told to hide themselves until their beards grew back. Like it was to dishonor them that the beards were cut off. So, it's fair to say a lot of those ancient Hebrews took their faith and those laws extremely seriously.
Which is extremely silly.
Well, look, I don't know that is the talking donkey silly. The talking bush is silly. The guy walking on water, that idea is silly. The guy casting demons into pigs and then running off the side
who killed the kids with bears.
Not coming into contact with women. I mean,
there's a lot of things that are silly. And then there's just some things that I would say are unique, oppressive rules that are part of the culture. Plagues of Egypt, silly. Can't prove it.
It's a Semitic cultural motif.
And if we are wrong, we will find out. Am I correct?
Eventually.
And if you are wrong,
if you don't have a hat,
you will find out.
Yeah. Anything else?
Get
I
what I'm
guess
trying
you
to say
can't
here?
be. You gotta
So
have
there
a
is no
hat
need to be arguing and fighting
not
about who the chosen
be
seed is.
colored or a woman or
What I would say to all
queer.
people
This looks
of
like a bunch
all
of straight white
nations and
dudes.
all lands, all languages and
I've
tongues
actively
and
thrown away
countries
all
and
faiths that can mean
continents,
women. All of them.
that there has been a way of escape made for every man and every woman.
That's all the Abrahamic religions.
Time is your opportunity to
Too
repent.
gay for me.
So instead of trying to prove that you are the chosen seed and threatening people and saying all kinds of devilish stuff to people because you believe you're the chosen seed, have faith in your God. And if you really truly had faith, you wouldn't even care about the chosen seed thing as much as you care about your soul salvation. If you just so happen to be the chosen seed, so be it, okay? But you need to make sure that you're not doing it out of some type of pride and arrogance, because I'm just going to be straightforward with you. The scripture outlines very clearly who his people are, where they're going to be in the last days, what condition they're going to be in. It outlines that very clearly. And if you are allowing your pride to get in the way of the truth, you are endangering your own soul. So what you need to be doing, and this goes for the chosen seed too, because remember, the chosen seed was broken off for disobedience. What everyone needs to be doing, everyone around this world needs to hear this message and take heed to what is being said. What everyone needs to do is to work out their own soul salvation with fear and trembling, and make sure that your calling is an election sure. Make sure that your heart is right and that you are walking upright before the Most High Yah, and that you have repented.
The hat depends on your rank, YouTube punk. You know, the
Oh, of course.
the higher, you know, yeah, the
Well,
higher,
no,
the
like
funkier
the-
and larger the hat. You know,
Like the bearskin style hat, those are rabbis.
yeah, this is like the prospect hang around hat, you know.
I think
A hazing hat.
the weekender hat, you know?
that guy in the leather hat. I don't know how traditional that is.
This is the junior hat. You know, he not really. He don't
Well,
even. He don't look
well,
at his
these are-
beard. Look at his
these
beard.
are
He's
these
not,
look
he's
like-
not ready. He's
just
not ready.
just by the way they're dressed, they're Hasidic Jews.
He's up and coming.
maybe even Karaite Jews. So yeah, they're just
He falling
this is them
off.
gathered together. I don't know where the women
look like
are.
Danny
I think it's
McBride.
women only. I was thinking that, and he also looks a bit like Johnny Depp. I thought,
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
like a you know. sort of
I'm
a
just gonna
sleepy-
call it
sleepy
the
Johnny Depp.
person most sincere in their faith is this guy right here.
Oh, yeah. He's over everything. He probably never believed. He's holding it down.
Pocket lock,
He's about the business. You know what I mean?
I will admit he doesn't look thrilled to be where he is. I don't know what was said. I don't know if
It's the state of these young boys behind him. He's
And
just
the man sitting next to him is smiling, so maybe he's enjoying himself, but that guy is not happy. And who knows what this moment that's frozen here, who knows what it's about. But yeah, a lot of those, I don't know what the leather hats, I don't understand that. I've never seen those before. I'm used to the bowler hat or whatever you call that style hat. I see
it's
those a
probably
lot.
like his particular rabbi or his rabbi's rabbi said that it's cool for his group of
Yeah.
Jewish people to rock that hat.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Well,
like-
they may be. I mean, conceivably, they could be from another.
They could be
another
drunk.
another country. Well, it could be
Yeah.
that, of course. But like I have a lot of Jewish friends, and I've been invited to gatherings, but not one like this.
Mhm.
So I don't know if this is like a Lubavitch gathering or something like that.
Really, my one black friend? You mean people like me, you and Wayne have never been invited to a gathering like this?
No,
Hey, I'm about to change that though.
I've been to a lot of stuff. So, like I said, I'm very fond of studying religion. So I've
This
been
doesn't seem like
invited to a
this
lot of-
doesn't seem like the thing you bring your one black friend to. I'm just saying this seems like doesn't seem to be a lot of us here.
Okay, so my friend Rebecca, when I was in college, she invited me to Shabbat, with there was
Shabbat.
like so this is at Ball State University.
Shabbat's that Luther Vandross song, right? Shabbat, Shabbat, baby.
It was
Right.
not.
Isn't that
It was
a car?
not
I
that.
thought that was a car that came out in the 70s.
So there was nothing like that. So we had dinner together, and they walked me through, because back then I was just interested. I had no knowledge really of Judaism, but they walked me through the different ceremonies, and I'm pretty sure it was Passover. But they walked me through everything that they do as part of the ceremony. This was a bunch of students who worked together to make the meal, and we sat down and we celebrated together. I was just as welcome as could be. This might as well have been my 50th week attending with them.
That's pretty sweet. I mean, I feel like Seder,
but that's
Passover Seders and stuff.
I don't know if you get that pocket locker, but that's what I get. And then after we went to a service, and that's when like the sort of culture shock began, because the women sat behind us. They didn't sit next to us. I wanted to sit with my friend.
Ooh.
But that's not the way it was. I was given a Torah to read, and someone explained to me, one of her male friends sat next to me, and he was walking me through, here's what all this stuff means. He said it very quietly as not to disturb the service. And everybody there knew I was a guest,
Sure.
And I wore a hat because I didn't have it. No, they gave me a yarmulke. So that went on my head. And, I sat there and I wanted to be as
blend.
Because I thought it was a really sweet thing for them to invite me to come to this, and I just eat stuff like this up, so this was perfect for me. And I was told afterwards, your Hebrew is very good. I'm like, I don't know why that is, because my friend's friend, he said, here's how you say here's how you pronounce these letters when you see them. So I just listen to him. If it sounded good, it's because it's not hard, if I'm picking it up right away. Right. But it was a great thing. And afterwards, a couple people were saying to me, are you coming back? There was a lot of enthusiasm there. And I think because it was such a small group, maybe there were 40 people at best, 40 people. Mm-hmm. And imagine the joy if those numbers grew to now there's 400 people. They wouldn't feel so isolated. They wouldn't feel so alone. As we've all seen it in our own lives, there's power. You feel empowered to be in a group. Not that you should feel superior. That's not the point. But it's community. That's the point. Like in that picture that's on her video, we don't really get a sense of the community that those people share in that photo. We get men of various age and hats,
and I'm sure she chose this picture to make them to not look flattering.
Because she could have put a picture of a family in here,
or
mom, dad,
diverse congregation or anything.
And those exist within Judaism. They have that. I'm sure Spider's probably seen it in Israel, because they have all those Ethiopian Jews there, and Jews from other places are moving to Israel. So
also these divisions they're not actually strictly racial. There's a lot the problem is there's so much racism that's or racial tension that's the issue here, but it isn't a neat divide, right? Because there isn't a one-to-one correlation. Just like the fact that, to be honest with you got people like, I'm gonna just say certain content creators who are Muslims, but they're clearly more in that black Hebrew Israelite tip, even though they're white.
That's so weird.
They're like white jailhouse Muslims, if that makes any sense.
Jailhouse Muslim is real. 100%.
Yeah.
Hey Jay, super quick. Can I OBF, do you mind if I call you OBF? One black friend. I got a quick story I wanted to tell you. I don't think I told you about my interaction with Black Israelites.
Okay.
I wanted to bring that up. Because I may be out here in Minnesota, but they are here, bro. And they may not be in massive numbers, but in certain spots, especially in the hood, they will be out there at that fucking bus stop, and they will be out there next to that bank on a Saturday, just shouting all this stuff that's like, okay, 30% of it's like anti-capitalism, and it kind of makes sense, but then the rest of it is all magic dust and wild. And I was actually approached by a young Black Israelite when I went to a gym. We were playing basketball, and we ended up on the same team in pickup, and we were doing pretty good. And after the game, he started, talking shop to me about faith and all that stuff. And I knew where it was going, because, the moment somebody's like interested in you, but like, they're not, it's not like a dating thing. When they start asking a whole bunch of questions, you're like, oh, okay, I'm about to get proselytized too. Okay.
Or sold solar. They'll try to sell you solar.
Yeah.
Right.
So
exactly. You are way too friendly. You about to sell me some shit. So that was going on while I was like packing up. And the dude's basically his entire fucking pitch was, and he said this almost verbatim: heaven is backwards. We are going to be in the mansions in heaven with God, the Black people, and the white people will be working in our fields in heaven. Like that's what he told me. That was his ultimate selling point on his particular brand of faith. And I told him like I don't want to rule over anybody, I'll talk to you later, blah blah blah. And I was polite about it, but like that's what it is, like that sense of justice. And I understand wanting that, especially like racial justice, but like that's not the way to go about it. That's not a healthy mindset to have. Like, I'll be in your position, your oppressive position on top of you one day. That's not a solution I feel like worth believing in. And that was wild to me. And those same dudes are still out there when it's not a bunch of snow on the ground, like every Saturday.
And that's where that's the culture from where the accusations of, they've got some real screwed up views of race come from.
Well, maybe I should stop saying that I will be in management in hell and be the supervisor for Kent Hovind, and
you will be whipping Kent Hovind when he steps out of line.
I better not say that, because that's like saying the same thing.
Well, you might be one of the angels tossing them down there.
Now, hell is supervised by angels. So
the borders.
Scriptures. So, look, I think this is a tough one. And Pocket Lock, I don't know if you have more of a clip to play or if you got to get going, but
yeah, sorry.
No, I appreciate your story.
It's almost done.
I do say again, don't be so quick to make up your mind on this topic. There's so much to know, and it might be. I guess for me, it's more fun not to make up my mind, because there's no getting disappointed and then excited, and the roller coaster aspect of it is completely gone for me.
Yeah, that's very true.
It's just interesting.
The thing that I don't want to overlook is that there's a real there's a real tragedy. And to me, I put it in there with all religious conflicts, but it's unnecessary. And I don't think you can solve it, because I think there is. I think they're both wrong, right? I don't think either is the chosen people. And so both are going to be able to connect the dots to very real ancient or historical narratives. But the ultimate resolution is for both to realize that there's just no such thing as chosen people. So it's like, I'm undecided mostly because it's like I don't care, but to the extent that neither of them is headed towards the truth, right? Which is that's like the bigger problem. And if they were genuinely headed toward the truth, they just leave the whole thing alone. Like they just, oh, this isn't a thing. Let's stop this. So it's weird. And then also there's the cognitive dissonance, right? This is a thing where, like so many apologists, if I had one request of this woman, I would be like, I loved every single thing you said. I'm going to just need you to say it in the mirror real quick, and we'll be all the way at 100. Like that's my only request.
That'd be a pretty powerful statement. That'd be a pretty powerful statement for you to say to someone like her. But there are millions like her.
Yeah, that's the. I mean, yeah,
like
that's the whole deal. That's the whole deal. It's really weird. All right, there's only
evil deeds done in your body against the Most High, against your brothers and sisters, against strangers, against enemies. Make sure that when you take your last breath, that you have squared things away with the Almighty Yah. Make sure that you have your anchor holding and gripping a solid rock.
That's the best name ever. Forgot.
Make sure that you are not deceiving yourself and that you are not allowing anyone else to deceive you. That's what you need to make sure of. Everyone's trying to secure their seed as the chosen seed when the chosen seed was broken off. And they too have to be regrafted back into the tree. So chosen seed means nothing if you are not grafted in or regrafted in. So
it kind of means nothing, period.
To all who will hear. Because this thing that I see happening is very counterproductive, is very tacky, contacting perfect strangers, telling them what they need to speak and teach on, and some even threatening people to stop teaching certain things. If you are that sure you're the chosen seed, you have nothing to worry about. And someone's teachings or postings or YouTube videos won't have anything to do that can harm you in any way as it relates to you being the chosen seed, if that's indeed what you are. If you are that bothered by someone's teachings or videos or posts, then 9 times out of 10, you have doubts. And you think that if you scurry about to try to blur the lines a little bit, that's going to change things. All you're doing is you're confusing yourself and you're confusing other people. Because other people may believe that you are the chosen seed. You might convince people of that for whatever reason. You may just very well convince billions of people that you are the chosen seed. But you have to remember this one thing. Those billions of people don't have an eternity to put you in. They have not a heaven nor a hell to place you in. So their opinion matters not. Understand what I'm saying here? So-called chosen seed of whatever race you may be.
Yeah,
I love
exactly.
it so
people appointing themselves as the chosen seed. Come on now, forget about what people think. Make sure your heart is right. Because there is only one chosen seed, plain and simple. And people fighting for that position is not going to change who they are.
Yeah, she had a strong message. She just didn't listen to it herself. You know, it's like Doug always said, that the first rule of thought experiments is you got to think through it before you ask the rest of us to.
Right. First draft, baby. Draft it. Edit.
But yeah, that was a great sermon. She just didn't read it. Yeah, she just didn't read it herself. But it was good.
My biggest takeaway from that is in order to get through your life and to be who you feel like you need to be, you have to, if you feel like somebody has your back, if a divine being has your back, and that's going to be the mechanism you use to like ignore the bad criticism, you know what I mean? Or be able to like power through hardship in your life. I'm all about it. That's why I don't ever want to take anyone's faith from them. I just want people to be more rational. That's my goal. You get what I'm saying? Because I do understand the benefits of that faith and it, the community aspect. And when you're not able to find a reason and you feel like you need a reason because everything in every conversation and every philosophical, thing you've ever read in your Christian life tells you that you need to have a reason, like if you can't find that reason and God's going to be it, go for it. Just power through. I want you to overcome and have a better quality of life And if you need to believe in an imaginary friend to do that, by all means, go for it. Just don't try and make the rest of us believe that bullshit. That's it.
Yeah. Well, they kind of, it stinks because the thing that tells them that that's what it's okay for them to believe tells them they should make the rest of us believe it too. So that's kind of the problem. But yeah, my one black friend, you can go ahead and close this out.
Well, this has been a very interesting topic. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Thank you, Pocket Locker, for arranging this.
Appreciate you.
I'm glad I could actually do this, and you know, I got to get back to work, but I'm glad I'm at my house,
Yeah,
so there's
fun.
nobody's watching me take a break for a couple hours. So, yeah, it was fun, and I'm glad it could be lighthearted in places too. I know we do talk about a lot of serious things, so it's good to have some fun talking about the not so serious part of things that are serious for other people. So, again, I'll say it again. I'm repeating myself, and I know it. If you want to look into this topic, there's plenty of information out there, plenty of books on it. Ask for clarity. Don't make up your mind too fast. And if you're lucky, you won't make up your mind at all. You can just enjoy the discussion. And that's all I got to say. Other than, again, thank you all and take care of yourselves
and each other. No such thing as chosen people.
Oh,
we've all been chosen to be people.
Can we start over? Can we start over?
Right.
This is all to make Wayne laugh. Take care of yourselves
and each other.
That's right.
That's right.
And then the Darwin, the Dawkins, the Christopher Hitchens Science Special.